And welcome to Develop Your Own Immunity. Now, this is an important topic, and we'll not only look at the concept of immunity from physical afflictions, because in integral yoga, the aim is to free oneself from the grip of all negative contagions and influences. And the means to do that will be shared by all the facilitators in the coming week. So we're very happy to be opening with Dr. Monica Giulati, who actually did her PhD in immunology some years back. However, we do not expect a mainstream scientific approach to the subject this time. Before we start with Monica introducing herself to those who don't know her, let's just step back into a few moments of silence, and then Monica can introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you, James. And namaste and welcome, everyone. So, today we are starting with developing our own immunity. And the topic really interests me because, as James shared, I coincidentally did my studies in autoimmunity and have a little bit of idea of how things are working at the level of immune system of our body. And before I enter into the topic, I would just want to share how events in my life gave me a plunge into immunity, or things that we refer to with the body. So I was curious to know how science is done outside India, and I wanted to study. Let's see, how more papers are coming out of other countries and not really India. And that's how I started to apply to countries outside India for my PhD. And as grace would have it, I got through one of the universities, and there I studied the topic that was given to me. It was not that I was very interested in the topic, it was just happening that the topic was autoimmune disorders. Little did I know that after many years of that PhD that I did not even want to do, I would actually have a practical first-hand experience of how actually my 4 or 3.5 years there were so helpful in my own understanding of illness that came to me. So I spent around 4 years studying autoimmunity. Myasthenia gravis was the disease that we were studying, and multiple sclerosis also. And it occurred to me towards the end of my PhD that something is not okay, in the sense that we were studying clinical samples. We were studying blood samples of patients suffering from myasthenia gravis, which is a musculoskeletal disorder, and the muscles get attacked really badly, and the own immune system of the body itself attacks the muscles and the skeletal system. And I had no idea about Sri Aurobindo, mother, no idea about any other alternative health kind of things. But something in me told me that this is not how we will be able to find a cure to this illness. Why? Because I don't know about the mental and emotional state of the person that we are trying to find a cure for, or even try to find why the disease originated at the first place. So just by the blood sample, all of that would not become clear. And now, years later, it has come to me through my practical experience going through an illness that, yes, it's very, very true that mental and emotional components are very, very important when we are talking of any illness which is related to our body, because you cannot separate somehow mind and matter. They influence each other at all the times. Mind and matter are influencing, like spirit and nature, they are influencing each other. They are one, they are not two, they are not like separate from each other. So many years later, after that PhD, I got a first hand experience of an illness which was cancer, bladder cancer, urinary bladder cancer. And the way I took to that experience was, after a couple of crying here and there, like that why did it happen to me, not much into that, but I have to say that that also happened. It's part of the process. Immediately I switched to, now let us find about how have I created this illness. Because now, as if the blocks were joining from me, which I left unfinished after my PhD. After my PhD, I left scientific research completely, because I thought that only by that kind of research I cannot find out what is causing the illness or how to cure the illness. So now those blocks that I left uncompleted, as if they were given to me again to see how they are working, practically. So I have this body that I have, and it has got now this disease called bladder cancer. And somehow there was a surety in me. I don't know how that surety was coming, that I have created this illness. Now let me find out how. And for that, I needed help from many masters and teachers and therapists, which again, as Grace has it, in the unfolding of your life, you meet people, you read books, seems by chance, but nothing is by chance, where things become more clearer to you. So there, I saw that, yes, it was pretty clear to me that cancer came to me for awakening me from the storylines that I was living in. I had created a illusory world in my head, and I had started narrowing myself down in that world, especially after my marriage. And somehow, again, I would not know the whole process. I don't have that clarity, but this much I knew that uh, because of my disharmony in mind and emotions, something has become disharmonious, and that has resulted in this bodily manifestation of cancer. Now, the moment I took power back to me, because I said that I have created it, let me see how I can uncreate it and recreate something new. It actually gave me a lot of power, because I'm not putting blame on anything else. I'm taking the responsibility and onus in my hands. So one can say that it is still a doership kind of a thing that I am into, which I think is part of the process, because it's by reclaiming your doership that I can become undoer. Before that, I cannot become the undoer. I cannot see that I am actually not the doer. So first, I have to reclaim my doership of all the things that I have created, the havoc I have created in my body. So by that responsibility, by taking it on me, it was not a burden. It was actually a lot of power, empowerment that came to me, that if I can create, look how much my thoughts and feelings have power, that they have created a material tumor in my body. How much are they powerful? So if they are so powerful, then it means they can also undo this and recreate something new. As Mother says in her prayers and meditations, that the universe is being recreated and dissolved and recreated every moment of our existence. Right now, as we are speaking and you are listening, you know, each moment the universe is being recreated. It is just that, on the top of it, it seems like, oh, it's me only, nothing changed. But if we look at the quantum physical level, we all know, even science is now finding out that it's like a vibration going on and things are changing each moment. There is no ground here, there is no solidity here. And it is not that I say because of any theory that I have read. We slowly begin to see it in our body that everything is a vibration. Things are appearing and disappearing, thoughts are appearing and disappearing. Sensations in the body, say sensation of a jealousy or a greed, or even good sensations, they are appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing. So every moment the universe is changing, and that is why recreation is possible. Nothing is solid, things are fleeting. So we often become very miserable when we say that, oh, things are changing, we can't trust anything. But actually it's so powerful that things are changing, that nothing is solid. You can change things. If things are bad, we can make them good. If they are good, they will change, they may become bad. So we can't rely on that. So our center of happiness has to lie within, because things are changing outside. So I think that's enough of my background to say that what I want to share today is my lived experience of nurturing the body. And I realized through my cancer that I was not in the body, the mind was not in the body. Now, what happens? All of us must be living in our apartments or wherever we live. Imagine that you go out for a vacation for a long time. There's nobody home. Anything can happen. We know that anything can happen. The dust and dirt gets accumulated. We can get looted. The house is there, although the lock is there, but the locks can be broken. We know that things can happen when there is nobody in the house. When there are people in the house, then also things happen, but more chances because there is no supervision. So imagine an apartment complex where a gated community with guards and everything, and now there is no guard at all. Any stranger can come in and create havoc because there is no supervision, there are no cameras. So I felt that when cancer happened and when I was diagnosed with cancer, this is what I felt, that I was not home. I was not in the body. The body is the home of mind. Thoughts and feelings are not the home of mind. When we are connected with our breath, and breath means body, because without body there is no breath. When we are connected with the breath, when we are connected with the sensations of the body, what is going on right now, then the mind is here in the now. But usually we all know, as adults, we suffer from an uncontrolled mind. Means that we are swept away by storylines in our head, owing to our past tendencies, the things that have happened in our life. And the mind keeps on thinking and interpreting and trying to understand those stories in the head, in the feelings. This was done to me, this was not nice. How could that person do this to me? We all have stories. We all have stories. Can we, for once, think of keeping the stories aside and fully be here in the present moment? Just completely, as if erasing all your interpretations that are there about the happenings that have happened in the past or may happen in the future. So I was not home. I was either in the past or in the future, in the sense I was also commenting, interpreting what was happening in the present moment, but not fully in the present. And because of that, I suffered. And thankfully, with the help of grace, I was able to convert or transform it into a learning experience for me. And I feel that's where the power of any illness lies. Now, illness may come. We all have to know that wherever there is a car, breakdown can happen, right? Wherever there is a constructed house, things will happen, leakages will happen, plumbing will be needed, electricians will be needed. Just like that, wherever there is a body right now, we are not talking of supramental state right now. We have to acknowledge where we are right now. Breakages will happen, leakings will happen. But how do I deal with that leakage? That's where our power lies. So, not to push away things when they manifest. An illness is here, an illness is here. Just like very factually, like a scientist with a relatively objective, cannot be completely objective, I can understand that, but relatively objective, that okay, now that it is there, let's see. Let's see the process. Mother says, I was seeing a book, and mother says, I noted it down for myself. Mother says, there is no disease from which I have not suffered. Imagine. I have taken all the diseases upon my body to see their course. Now, this is a scientific spirit. To see their, let me see what is happening. And there, when we become so curious about things, then there is a fearlessness that arises, because you know that you are more than the body. You are not just this little body. So then you can look at the disease. So mother says, I have taken all the diseases upon my body to see their course. Like a headache, or a PCOD, or a cancer of this area, cancer of that area. How does that happen? Let me see. Now mother is taking all that upon her body, saying to see their course and to have their knowledge by experience in the physical, so that I may be able to work upon them. But as my physical has no fear, now this is where we as narrow constricted beings lack. As my physical has no fear and it responds to the higher pressure, it is easier for me to get rid of them. So to be very, very accepting to whatever is the physical situation right now in my life, in my body, and parallelly be connected to, in whatever way, we all may have different ways of connecting to the higher within us. In whatever way, to be connected to the universe, to the higher power, knowing that nothing can happen in this life which is against me. The universe is not against me. Nobody is trying to kill me by this disease. So that faith needs to be there. That the whole, as if, mother has, at one point of time, mother also says that as if we are in the lap of universe, in the lap of divine. I think James had put this message on the group that he has created for the sessions. Let me just read it out. It says, I am constantly enveloping you as it were in a cocoon of peace. So we, to live that reality. Now imagine that you are just nurtured in the mother. Right now, as wherever you are sitting, you are in the mother. We are not outside mother. We are in the mother. So how can anything happen which is anti you, which has animosity to you? Anything that happens is for a purpose. So to have that faith in parallel with acceptance of the physical facts that, okay, this has happened, this has manifested, and knowing that the universe is not against me, but for me, become curious and go deeper in the illness fearlessly. And for sure, we will get revealed to so many truths, to so many things that led to that illness. And once that is not needed, it's like illness is like a knock on the door. Excuse me, what are you up to? And once I have heard the call, when I have taken the message, then there is no need for the illness to be there, because it has done its purpose. And if it still wants to hang around, let it hang around. Let's let it hang around. And the problem with us, I feel, is, as in Buddhism they say, there are 3 root poisons: craving, wanting what is pleasurable. Now a disease is not pleasurable, so we don't want it, right? So we have aversion to the disease. it is still, we are still trapped in the vicious trap of samsara. We don't want a disease. Oh my God, I don't want this illness. Cancer, how has it occurred to me? Go away, go away. So aversion. And second is craving. I want to be healthy, I want to be healthy. Like that kind of a craving. So if it's unpleasant thing happens, like an illness now that has happened, if I'm fully home in the present moment, can I just become like space, like a space in this room? It is allowing me to be, it is allowing the computer to be, it is allowing everything in it to be, it is also allowing the spider web to be, it is allowing little creatures on the wall which I can't even see. So like space, we become accepting that it's okay, you can be here, I'm not afraid of you, I want to understand you, but I'm not afraid of you. Yeah. Then we can go closer, then we can utilize this chance fully of what the disease has come to reveal to us. So how can we nurture the bodyguard? Who is the bodyguard? The bodyguard is the mind. And when the mind is fully in the body, in the present moment, breath can be used as a connector to come back to the body. Sensations can be used, top to head, top to bottom. We can go through our sensations in the body. We can connect with the body, and the mind gets home. When we are in the thoughts and feelings, we get wounded, we bleed, and because it's not the right place for mind to be. It's not its home. But when I am fully in the home, then I can do the nurture. Then I can also see what are the strangers that are coming, because now the guard is home. So no looter can come just barge in. When the looter is entering, I am available, I am supervising. The camera is on. So when I'm conscious, then I can take care of the body. And many things can happen. Obviously, we can go into many aspects based on where we are coming from right now. And in the coming these 4 or 5 days, many speakers will be touching different aspects of illnesses. And hopefully one or the other thing, whatever we get like a key for our own process of healing, we can take and stick to that. It's very important, because usually what happens, I feel, that is we listen or read to a lot of things, but we don't stick to one particular thing and use it as a tool to go deeper into the understanding of an illness and going close, fearlessly going close to an illness without any aversion, without the craving to be healthy again. Because see what is happening when I am not craving to be healthy again, when I am not being aversive to an unpleasant situation like an illness, then who am I? I am in that space, I am the consciousness. I am allowing things to be, which is my true state of being. So in that we expand and we become fearless automatically, and we get a lot of power to now deal with the situation in a whatever way we want to deal. So I would like to take a pause here. If there are things or questions we have, sharings we have, please speak up, please share, because otherwise it will be a monologue and I don't know how helpful would that be. So if there are concerns or questions or anything related to whatever I may have said right until this point, or something coming from your own experience of how the disease has helped you or is helping you, yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, doctor. So my question was, I have been reading Louise Hay, Mind, Body and Spirit, for the last 20 years. And there are, of course, ways in which she tells how you can overcome diseases through affirmations. So my request to you will be that I'm speaking from my side. I understand that there is a way that our mind is very strong and our belief system creates diseases. But for example, I have a problem where my bladder generally does not get empty at one go, and I have to pass urine every now and then. But still, I'm not able to find a cause for it. So it will be very helpful knowing that yes, mind is very powerful. That I know, but what are the actual steps? How do I make it uh, practically possible in my life from step by step to implement this knowledge what you're talking, instead of having an intellectual knowledge but an experiential knowledge where I can execute these teachings? That will be very, very helpful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for putting that up.
Thank you so much for hearing.
Thank you. So as I shared earlier that we have to get out of this loop of wanting to be healthy, not wanting to be unhealthy. So practically allowing the things to be. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult because for that we have to be completely home, completely home in the cells, as if you are entering your cells. So right now, wherever we are sitting, just for a moment, let's, whoever wants to do this, like a practical experience, we can close our eyes, and whatever is the part of our body that is giving right now discomfort, we can go there, closing with closed eyes, just go there, wherever. It may be your head, it may be your bladder, it may be stomach, or in general, if there is nothing, just go in the body. Just close your eyes, go in the body, and whatever is uneasy, like a baby who's coming, who's crying and it's coming to you, wanting some attention. Can you just allow that crying baby to be? Whatever is the uneasiness or discomfort or the unhealthy issue in the body, just allow it completely in the body. Get in the body. So stay with the breathing because that helps to be in the body. Inwardly, you can let it know it's okay, you can be here. Mindfully, keep breathing mindfully. And I know I don't understand the cause, why you are here, why you are still hanging around, but you can be here. I can be with this unknowing of the cause. Stay with the breathing, mindfully enveloping the whole body in your embrace with all the unknowings that are there. Yes, I don't understand, but that's okay. I don't know how long this illness is going to stay, but that's okay. Fully holding it, embracing it. In the body, get in the body. And feel that restless energy, wanting to understand, and also embrace it in your mindfulness of breathing. It's okay. The restlessness can be there. The doubts in the mind can hang around. It's okay. Things are not perfect. That's okay. But I am fully here with all the imperfections. I'm fully here and present. And not only present over my body, in each cell of the body, I am fully present. So being with that unknowing of the cause, of when it will heal fully, of the doubts in the mind, all of that, you can allow space for all of it. You are so vast. like the space which is holding you right now. It is allowing you to be however you are. It has not said no to you. No, you can't be here, right? So, very deep, deep, deep allowance. And that knowing which knows all of this that is happening. Stay as that knowing. You are that knowing. The sensations in the body, yes, I know, I'm knowing it. The doubts in the mind, knowing it. The restlessness of wanting to understand but not able to understand, knowing. This is health. What we are doing right now, that's what true health is. True health is a deep, deep allowance of things to be. And then we have the power to recreate, new create. So, not pushing away any experience that has come my way. And then, as we go ahead, things unfold in a manner. Not that I'm waiting for the things to unfold now that I have plunged into my body. Okay, what is the next step? So, this gave us just an experience of plunging in the body and deeply allowing things to be. Allowing the restlessness of not understanding to be. It's okay. Allowing the not understanding to be. So, your true success, we have to know our true success is not that my disease is cured. We have to know that, because on the appearance level, it seemed like the person who has cured the disease is successful, and if I am with the disease still, I am unsuccessful. No, I would personally say no. Your true success is to be rid of this cycle of craving and aversion, running towards pleasure, not wanting pain. This agitation that is there. So now I am out of that cycle of wanting to be healthy, not wanting to be unhealthy. In this moment, I'm completely okay to not be okay, because things are not okay at times. It's a moving perfection, word of perfection. It's a totally unfolding that is happening in the world at each moment. Things are not perfect, yes, and I'm okay with that unfolding. Yeah, so this just, I wanted to give you an idea that, and of course we have to repeat the plunging in the body, connecting to that particular area that makes us uneasy from time to time. And not only that, if we may not have any illness, but we can just connect, tune in with the body time and again, because it's as if the guard is missing when we are not in the body. The guard has to be home, otherwise there is havoc. So is that does that make sense for us, or there are still things which are coming, which like a doubt which are appearing? You can share. Yes.
Yes, I have a small question. What you are just indicating is that there is a duality, there is a wish to be okay, and there is a fight against that. And once we go beyond this duality, then that there is a quantum understanding of the entire course of suffering, and then that leads to going beyond this suffering and pain. So what you're suggesting is the accept this condition and allow yourself to go beyond this duality.
Yes, yes. So what I am suggesting is that to be rid of, see, the basic disease is not the physical disease. That will take its course, because there are many layers of our previous lives which has led to this situation, or many layers which we will not be able to fully understand. So the basic, if I can use the disease to get rid of the basic disease that is there with us, and the basic disease is running towards pleasure and wanting to be away from pain, running towards being respected, wanting to be away from being insulted. We all know that. How we suffer when a friend betrays us, or how we suffer when a friend, we lose a loved one. We don't want that, right? So if a disease has come, now accepting that the disease is there, can I use this as a stepping stone, as an indication to get rid of the cycle of craving and aversion, which is the root of my misery? And then whatever happens to the disease, leave it to grace. And of course, we are taking steps, practical steps we all take. Whatever comes to our understanding, I should eat that and I should not eat that. That all you do as per your own understanding of the things. Not refusing that we must not eat healthy. But it must not be, eating healthy should not become an obsession. Oh my God, I don't eat that. I can't eat that. So that again, I'm still in the cycle of craving and aversion. The disease came to tell me to get me to out of this craving and aversion, but I actually did not fully utilize it. Right? So that's my call. Can we aspire to fully use the disease now that it has manifested, to cut at the root of our misery? So as you said, reframed correctly, that can I now use this to go beyond wanting to be healthy and running away from not wanting, unhealth or disease? And then whatever has to happen, if I have to undergo a surgery, I will go undergo a surgery. If I have to see a doctor, I can see a doctor, no problem. Get your scans done if you want to, nothing against that. So whatever comes to my intelligence, I have to follow, trusting my intelligence, parallelly, again, arising above the cycle of craving and aversion, which is the root of all the illnesses. Actually, it's the illness of the misery of life that we suffer from. So we are cutting at the root of it, and this cannot be done at once. We have to keep reminding ourselves that again I'm craving, again I'm in aversion. Keep reminding, keep getting above it, and to accept and allow things to be, and take decisions from a place of, one can say, a stability, a peace within.
Initially, you said that I have created the disease.
Sorry, say again.
You said that I have created the disease. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what I wanted to say was that I was not home and the mind was not in the body. The mind was lost in the storylines, which appeared so true. Now look at your minds, and all of us will have storylines about my relationships, how things happened, how they should have happened and did not happen. All that has to be just thrown away, because I can't keep carrying that and do the things. It's so burdensome. So what I wanted to say, that I created my illness by not being present to the body. The guard was not home. The guard was lost in the thoughts, lost in the feelings, taking them very rigidly, believing in my storyline that yes, this is the true thing that has happened. So believing rigidly in the stories, letting them create lots of disturbance in my mind and body. So then what is the disturbance created? The disturbing emotions that we call the jealousy, greed, ambition, all of these things that we consider as negative emotions. I keep on letting them arise, and actually accentuate the process of disturbance. So that is what I found that I was doing, carrying too much load in the mind of my interpretations, believing in them very, very truly, and mind not being fully in the present moment. Mind was not light and free. It was heavily laden with things. That's
So
what I
it's
was.
just the awareness of the conditioning which you are in.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So one can
Thank you.
become conscious that what am I doing? One can become conscious, look at where am I lost, and then again bring the mind back in the present moment if we have done that enough, if it has given us enough misery. Because before that we don't understand. Yeah, so if there are more sharings, more questions, I'll be very, very happy, because each situation is very different, very special. So if you want to share your experience or ask anything, please go ahead.
Dr. Monica, this is Vrinda here. I have a question for you. This in the last maybe few days, some understanding of why you use the term monkey mind starting to come. And I have a question in terms of, once you've realized that there is something which is disturbing, or this, suddenly everything is going fine, you're super cheerful, everything is on track, and then something comes back to kind of throw off balance. And then, it's like things that you thought you have moved on from, they come absolutely front and center all over again. It's like, oh, nothing was actually, overcome. Everything is the same. And that misery seems to not, stay contained just with you, right? It creates unnecessary, uh, I'll say, lack of smoothness with people who have absolutely nothing to do with that situation. And you know that you're trying to stop it, but how do you switch back again to be cheerful and just completely move on from whatever that was, or at least contain it so it doesn't unnecessarily spread, because other people will be like, what is what have I done, kind of thing. So how do you address something like that in a
Yeah,
practical?
yeah. Thank you. Yes. So as Sri Aurobindo has said in his poem, God's Labor, I'm sure some of us may be well versed with it. He says, every enemy slain arises again. Right? And every battle fought has to be refought. So things will arise. We are cheerful, we will become sad again. But again, now there is more clarity that if there is a craving in me to be cheerful again, I am conscious of that craving. Because cheerful and sad are actually just states. They are movements of Prakriti, movements of nature. Aren't they? What we call as our surface consciousness. So things will happen because things are changing each moment. Yesterday I was feeling on the top of the world. Today I am feeling neutral. So all that we are feeling, that we are able to see at the level of feeling, thoughts, anything that I am able to see is subject to change. All my states of being are subject to change. But I am able to see that. I am able to know all those changes. So this is what we call Purusha and Prakriti. We all know, oh, today I'm not feeling that happy as I was yesterday, right? But the thing is, what Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri also in Canto, Book 1, Canto 4, Secret Knowledge. As if Prakriti and Purusha have made a secret pact. What is the pact? The Purusha doesn't appear to be very dominant. So I am able to see that today I am not cheerful. I'm a little pissed off today. But I'm not able to see the knowing that knows that I am pissed off. Isn't it true? It's so true that we are not able to see that. We miss it in the background. We miss it, like we go to see a movie and we don't see the screen. We see the images on it. Who focuses on the screen? That, oh, it's the screen that is allowing the images to be. Who cares to observe that detail? So when I am able to see that yesterday I was cheerful, things were okay, and things happened, I'm still under conditionings, tendencies come and arise, and I'm slowly becoming more conscious of the tendencies, trying to step back from it, but at times tendencies overwhelm also. And something I must have done, but whatever is the situation right now, as I observe, I'm sad, right? So this is what is the situation right now in front of me. I am sad. Now there is a knowing of that sadness. In that moment, if I can just remain as the knowing of sadness and remove the craving of, like, let go of the craving of wanting to be cheerful again, just see the magic that happens. Not wanting to be cheerful again. Allow, as we were allowing the disease to be. It's a very radical situation that we have to do. I am saying that yes, sadness is there, but I am not going to put another layer of paint on it. I am seeing sadness as sadness in the body. You're connected with the body. The mind is in the body. And wherever sadness appears in the body, you are mindfully breathing through the sadness and you're letting the child be. The child is upset. Yes, you can remain upset. I am embracing you. Of course, if we look at the component of sadness, you will see that there are thoughts and interpretations in the mind that has led to the state of sadness, right? Which I am unconscious of. But that happens at a very fast level. It's like shooting. Every time I'm having interpretation, and suddenly I realize, oh, I'm not happy anymore, right? But when I realize that now I'm not happy anymore, I'm sad, there you can, because it is gross, you can observe it. There the can begin. Can you allow the sadness to be in the body level? Work at the level of the body. Keep breathing through it. The mind will again go into the storylines that have led to the sadness. Don't try not to go there, because the mind gets lost. Nothing we can understand in the mind. Treat at the level of the body. At the level of the body, know sadness fully. Okay, how it appears? How long does it stay? Oh, it stays for 1 full day. Oh, it's okay, I can stand it. Okay, 2 full days. No problem. 2 hours, no problem. So like a scientist, you are just, it's a vast experiment that is going on. And you are looking at these expressions of sadness that we call, cheerfulness, happiness, neutrality. Oh, today I am more wise. Today I am more spiritual. Today I am more materialistic. All these are movements of Prakriti. This is not our true self. We will be able to act and make change in the movement of Prakriti only when we reclaim our seat fully as the knowing of all these events. And that reclaiming takes long time. We have to be a yogi for that, for all our life. Not one life is not enough. That's what yogis do when they are sitting in a forest or a cave. They try to stabilize that knowing. Because see, 2 minutes you can stay as that knowing. Again, you will fall a trap in the, you're lost in the flow of the thoughts and feelings. This happens with us when we try to sit. So that's what I would, one of the ways in which we can take it is that to see all these movements of, okay, yesterday cheerful state, today sad, tomorrow something else. But who am I? I am the consciousness that is conscious of all the happenings. And that consciousness is free of disease. It has no disease. That's where the true fountain of power and strength and peace can be found. To remain connected with the depths of our consciousness. I am the consciousness that is conscious of the illness at the body level. I see, I know, I see the sadness, but sadness is not me. I see the cheerfulness. Cheerfulness is not me. It's a state. It's a good state. It's a state which we want, you know. But there is again craving, aversion. Now I can become craving for a state of cheerfulness. Again, I have gone down in the drain. So to allow these states to come and arise, because that's how I can cut at the root of my suffering, which is craving, 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 and being aversive to things that I don't like. So there we take true stance as consciousness. We know ourselves as consciousness. All times we are consciousness. Who are we? We all the times, what are we doing? We are sensing, perceiving, knowing, and we know what we are thinking, right? We are. So by default, that's why people say by default, you are all Buddhas. We are all Buddhas. But we have to know that we are. So at that level, I feel that we should take it so that always we enter the root of the problem and treat it there, and not just superficial some embalming and then think that okay, now my work is done.
Thank you.
Yes, Deepti. Yes, please go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Deepti.
Sorry. You spoke about yogis not being in that dvandvatvam, right? That likes and dislikes state. But we've seen many yogis in India also have had illnesses, Mahayogis actually, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or even Sri Aurobindo. They've had illnesses. So what would be the role of karma in an illness? Is that the root cause, and how does one overcome that?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very beautiful question to which I have no answer. And I also see that, for example, and as I said in the beginning also, that I am not trying here to get rid of the disease. I am using the disease as a stepping stone to cut at the root of my misery of life. Now, whether the disease stays or does not stay, I am out of it. Right? So you're touching your true consciousness. Now, whatever happened now, Ramana Maharishi had also an illness until the end of his life, we all know, right? But he was not suffering. Same with Sri Aurobindo. Mother asked, are you in pain? Yes, I am in pain, but I am not suffering. We suffer. We suffer because we identify. Now, whether it is coming from our prarabdha karma or whatever previous lives, or whether we are, what is the interplay? Who can know but God? Who can know but God? And right now, if I'm not in a God realized state, how can I claim to know even? So I would say, even to that doubt on, see, the mind will try to understand, right? What we are trying to do right now. We have to go beyond the mind. This is not something which I can understand with the mind. It is impossible. It is impossible. Right now, the state where we are in. But the mind will create doubts in us. From time to time, it will create doubt. Now, understand two processes. It's not that the doubt is not taking me somewhere aage. It is taking me ahead. Definitely, I understand. I try to read books. But what am I doing in that process? I am actually, again, not in the body. So mind will try to do everything to the monkey mind that we say. It cannot be in the present moment. It will create a question in my head, and the question may be completely relevant. But right now, I don't have the capacity to get to the root of that question. Now, how can I know why did Ramana Maharishi suffer from that disease? I cannot claim to know it. So to accept that I don't know it, and it's okay to be with that unknowing. Right now, where is my power? Like what is the hold of my power? Where can I use the power? I can the basic thing is that on my body, which is most closest to me, if I can say in those relative terms, there I can use my power. So let us use our power there. And to these questions, as I said, I have no answer. How can I claim to know? The little thing that I understand of myself is enough right now for me. But see how the process of mind is. The only thing that it does is it pushes us in doubts. Now, Ramana Maharishi is not my domain, but I can be my domain. Sri Aurobindo, why he created his own illness, why he suffered, why did mother is herself saying, I created illnesses in me so that I can understand the course. Now that mother is saying, I can, understand that. But why did it happen to other people who were yogis and seers? I feel at my narrow level, we cannot know. So we should not claim to know also. But maybe one day we will know. But the journey will start from my own self, little self. So let us start the journey slowly, slowly, slowly. As we will know, the knowing will come. When the consciousness becomes so wide and vast and expansive that I become one in consciousness with Ramana Maharishis or Sri Aurobindo, then maybe the knowledge appears suddenly. That, oh, now I realize, why Ramana Maharishi had that illness. Maybe, I'm saying maybe. But right now, the consciousness is not as vast and wide and all encompassing. We have to accept that fact. So let us stay with that, and slowly, 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 as our unfolding proceeds, then we will maybe realize all these mysteries, or not, or maybe the question simply disappears. Who knows what happens? So I would say that I have gone there many times. The question that you have asked, I myself have gone there many times, but I have always felt that how can I know? So I can be okay with that unknowing. I would not know. Yeah, that's how I would deal with it. Somebody else may deal differently. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so anything else? Anyone? Any closing remarks? How much time we have, James?
Oh, we have a few minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a few
Any
minutes.
closing concerns or sharings? Anyone? So if not anything, then just taking this moment to reiterate, because we read too much these days. We have availability of too many books. We listen too much because we have YouTube, and it's very beautiful that everything is there on YouTube. All the spiritual help is there, but somehow I feel that we get too lost and we take in too much information, even if it's spiritual, and we are not able to do at the practical bodily level much, but just ruminate and regurgitate in the mind, in the mind, in the mind. And we begin to think that things have changed, but as one of you was sharing, Vrinda was sharing, I think things reappear again. So let us take this opportunity, and all of us, I know, all of us have read enough, we have heard enough. Let us hold on to something which is very practically, bodily applicable to me right now. The change has to be on the level of body. We can start with the mind. We can start with listening to things and reading many, many books, going to discussions, which are all very, very fruitful. Ultimately, they have to lead me to bodily change. The cells have to remain in that knowing of being in the lap of the divine all the time, remaining as that consciousness that we all are truly, truly. irrespective of the movements of Prakriti. So we have, as mothers yoga also we see goes on the cellular level. True change will appear on the cellular level. All our cravings and aversions and the restlessness, the agitation are on the level of cells. So whenever, if we have read enough, if those of us who think that now I have read enough, I have enough clues of where to start with the body, plunge in the body. Kabir ji says a couplet, I will share with you. In Hindi it says, Jin khoja tin paiya, gehre pani pet, मैं बपुरा बूडन डरा रहा किनारे बैठ. So in the translation it would be, the one who really wanted to found in the depth of the waters. Jin khoja tin paiya, gehre pani pet. He had to plunge deep in the waters. Our body is, we all know how much percentage of water our body is. We have to plunge deep in the body. Jin khoja tin paiya, gehre pani pet, main bapura boodan dara. Me foolish. I kept on sitting on the fence or at the bank. I did not take a plunge because I was too afraid to drown. And I did not find it then. So the true finding has to be in the depth of our body. And there are again many couplets that I can share from Kabir, from other masters, where they are talking about getting in the body to cut at the root of craving and aversion, because that is the root of our disease. A physical disease is not a problem, as Deepti was sharing. Yogis have gone through diseases, and for whatever reason they appear, we can go through everything. We are much vaster than this little body that we think we are. Much vaster. We don't even know who we are. So to reclaim that knowing, that consciousness, which can go through everything that comes in the process, everything, and to learn everything from the happening. If there is a bladder problem, I can learn through it. If it wants to stay, I can let it stay. If it wants to let my body go, that's also okay. To that extent, because we are not the body. What does Gita say? We are not the body. The body is removed like a cloth from us. So we have to live, we have to begin living in that consciousness fearlessly, so that anything that happens in the level of manifestation is like a curious little experiment that we come closer to, we understand, we take our learnings, the psychic grows and moves on to further growth. There is no end to it. So again, just reminding us to take one little cue here or there, to whatever you may have read a book or some teacher who resonates with you. Do that practical work in the body. Don't delay it, because the mind wants to just ruminate and regurgitate. It likes to discuss. We like to discuss, but when we begin to practice in the body, allowing a deep allowance of things to be, then at cellular level we can heal truly this misery that we have created in life, and life can slowly become divine. It has to become divine, but for that a deep allowance has to be there. Life cannot become divine in the round of craving and aversion. Again, last doha of Kabir, last couplet of Kabir, he says, चलती चाकी देख के दिया कबीरा रोई, दो पाटन के बीच में साबुत बचाना कोई. So he says, seeing this, how in India we have two big stones, and in which it's like a grinder, two stones, and in which in the middle of that you put the seeds of like wheat grains, and you crush and it becomes powdered. So it's called chaki. And when Kabir says, I see this stones of duality, craving and aversion, wanting to go towards pleasure, not wanting pain, and I see these stones of duality, and whoever comes in the middle of these two stones gets grinded. It becomes a powder. That's what happens to us. We become a powder. We suffer so much in this running, restless agitation. So he says, I cry when I see you running towards what you want and running away from what you don't want. चलती चाकी देख के दिया कबीरा रोए, दो पाटन के बीच में साबुत बचा न कोई. So who can remain without being powdered in between the stones of duality? So let us use whatever situation we have. It may be an illness, it may be a relationship situation, a life situation where things are very, very difficult. See how you are running towards wanting to be closer to pleasure, and how you are running away from things which are not pleasant, and stop that running. Stop that running. And then it's a true victory over all falsehood, because all disease is falsehood, as Mother says. That's our true victory. And whatever happens at the physical level or does not happen, or it takes time, then it's none of our concerns that much, because things happen at many, many levels and we are not aware, right? So we can allow, but the root of misery is stuck. So let us work at that level, and dedicating all the merit of all these discussions, all the goodness that we all have, sharing all the time with this goodness, with all the beings who suffer like me, like how I suffer, they also suffer. May we not suffer. May all the beings be happy. We all share our happiness and goodness with all the beings in the planet, which also want to be happy. They also want to be happy. May no one suffer. May we all make good use of our suffering and cut at the root of the misery. Thank you. That's it from my side. Thank you.
And that was beautiful, Monica. Thank you. And yes, we meet again tomorrow at 5:30, and for the next session of Develop Your Own Immunity. Thank you, Monica. And thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.